Messi flying forward. Leo Messi! United. Rafael Guerreiro with the cross. Ronaldo.
Seven countries have qualified for the Intercontinental Playoffs ahead of the 2027 Women's World Cup in Brazil. And just so you know, Michael Carrick says Manchester United have the chance to do something really special this season as he embraces talks of a title challenge this very campaign. And of course, so Manchester United and Michael Carrick are expected to have a pretty good run the 2026-2027 season. How realistic are the chances of winning a major silverware like the Premier League? Meanwhile, Chelsea finished 10th in the Premier League last season. Oh, come on. They finished 10th in the Premier League 10 years ago, but incredibly were champions of England just a year later under the new manager of the side, talking about Antonio Conte. And for the Blues, last time they had a pretty rough run to the season, finishing outside any of the European places. So no European football for Chelsea, not even the Europa Conference League this campaign. And now they got Xabi Alonso after finishing in the same position last season with no European football again. And new manager Xabi Alonso. Can the Blues repeat the feat under Antonio Conte back in 2017? And Paris Saint-Germain's 2-1 win over Aston Villa in the UEFA Super Cup on Wednesday night has added a fresh twist to the 2026 Ballon d'Or rankings. Does the Super Cup performance strengthen Ousmane Dembele's Ballon d'Or chances? What's it like going into that one? What factors will determine the final 2026 Ballon d'Or ranking? After the Super Cup, who's your favorite to win the 2026 Ballon d'Or? On that note, I say welcome to Sports 360 right here on CEMTV Television. I'm that the voice you trust and that media you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker. That's homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. I'm your host and guide. Let's start off with this one making the rounds on the international scene. It's got to do with, the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup playoff, where at least 7 countries have qualified for the Intercontinental Playoffs ahead of the 2027 Women's World Cup. Ghana and South Africa were confirmed as Africa's representatives on Thursday, following their wins over Ivory Coast and Nigeria respectively. They'll face any of the following teams in the first round: Chinese Taipei, Uzbekistan, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Papua New Guinea. Only 2 teams will advance from the first round of the 31, and so they'll then join 4 countries from UEFA, OFC, and CONMEBOL that have been exempted from the first round and will enter directly as the final playoff stage. So the 6 teams will be drawn into 3 parts with a single knockout match in each part, determining the final 3 teams to qualify for the FIFA Women's World Cup 2027. In another development now to club football, where Leicester City are looking to sell the club for more than £200 million, with its Thai owners King Power ready to leave after 16 years in charge of the club. The Foxes have had an 8-page sales booklet produced by a leading US investment bank to help offload the one-time Premier League title winners. Citigroup leased the Foxes a 2-men's team and other major assets, including the 32,000-seat King Power Stadium and its Seagrave training facility, which was opened in 2020 and is valued at about £121 million, as well as OH Leuven, Leicester's Belgian sister club, as up for sale in a brochure titled Project Lineup. The document values the club's physical assets at more than £200 million, though no specific sum has been attributed to the sale of its struggling team. The brochure speaks of a rare opportunity to acquire a club with an excellent track record of winning promotions to higher divisions. Leicester's successes, including the 5,000-1 Premier League title win of 2016 and the FA Cup triumph 5 years later, are well promoted in the brochure, while their place in League One after back-to-back relegations from the top flight and the Championship failed to get a mention. The club's turnover, which Citigroup forecast to be more than £97 million for the 2026 financial year, are also part of the pitch. And of course, both the years of financial losses and the club's debts, which, as outlined in its 2025 accounts, include about £103.6 million in bank loans. Of course, they were also omitted. In the years that the club yo-yoed between the Premier League and the Championship, 2 relegations from the top flight in 3 years between 2023 and 2025, the club lost more than £180 million, just so you know. In another development, Michael Carrick says Manchester United have got a chance to do something quite incredible, something really special, quote unquote, this season, as he embraces talks of a title challenge. Of course, the United boss takes charge of his first full season as head coach at Old Trafford, having impressed as an interim, during the second half of last campaign. United finished the season strongly, achieving a third place finish and securing UEFA Champions League football. United's form forward, towards the back end of last season has created a confidence in pre-season, with Lenny Yoro suggesting they can win the league this very term. Despite last winning the title back in 2013, Carrick says it's what United should be aiming for in the new season. He said in his words, and I quote, "We've definitely got the potential to achieve something really special. I'm not hiding from the fact, and we should aim to do that. There's been change. How much does that affect us in terms of our thinking? Not much really until we play against somebody. It's more of us trying to get the best out of ourselves." And like I said, it's starting, it starts building on what we've already kind of got as a foundation. That's the encouraging bit. That's we've gone through that spell and built each other's trust in some ways, with players looking to each other and looking at me and the staff and earning that, and then concentrating on what can we do to be better. He added that my answer is there's a lot of change, but really it's about us and what we can do to maximize what we've got. That's gonna make the difference for us. The words of Manchester United manager right there, talking about Michael Carrick going into the new season. But the question here is, how realistic are their chances going into the 2026-2027 season? Talking about Manchester United and the chance, or the chances of winning the Premier League title. How realistic is that for the Red Devils? We'll get to find out. Only time will tell. From Manchester now, let's move to London, where, in West London precisely, Chelsea are in the conversation. You know what? The Blues finished 10th in the Premier League some 10 years ago, but incredibly were Premier League champions. Yeah, champions of England just a year later under the new manager who came on board, and that's Antonio Conte back then. Now, after finishing in the same position last season with no European football again and a new manager in Xabi Alonso, can the Blues repeat such feat? Now, here's a similar situation. Chelsea's Premier League record in 2025-2026 is almost identical to when they finished mid-table under interim manager Gus Hiddink a decade ago, with just one more goal scored, and one more conceded. They finished with the same goal difference and just 2 points more than they did in 2015-2016. Few would have imagined back then that, after finishing 31 points behind champions Leicester City and below the likes of the Saints, talking about Southampton and the Hammers, West Ham United and Stoke City, Chelsea's players, would be the ones lifting the Premier League trophy the following season. Now, after starting the campaign, playing a back four, a 3-0 defeat at Arsenal in just their 6th game saw Conte switch his side to a back three. The impact was tremendous as they won their next 13 games in a row. It's a tactical switch that the Blues could make this season as well under new manager Xabi Alonso, given that his Bayer Leverkusen side won the Bundesliga unbeaten in 2023-2024, playing 3 at the back, similar to Antonio Conte when he won the Prem at Chelsea. That incredible winning run gave the Blues what proved to be an unassailable lead at the top of the Premier League as they won 18 games, more than in 2015-2016, to win the title with 93 points, improving the club's points tally by a whopping 43. Again, is undoubtedly a huge ask for Alonso's squad, given that it's the biggest point increase that any side has achieved to win the title in Premier League history. Leicester improved by 40 points the previous season. But they may not need to. While Arsenal will likely mount a stronger title defense than Leicester, the Gunners' points tally last season was the second lowest. Yeah, the second lowest to win the Premier League since Claudio Ranieri's side 10 years ago. Second lowest. Other teams are desperately poor for the most part. The bar to become champions has dropped in the last couple of seasons from the dieseling, from the dizzying demands of the Guardiola club era, where even 97 points wasn't enough in 2018-2019. So Chelsea might not need to reach the 93 points. Yeah, 93 that they achieved under Antonio Conte back in 2016-2017. They look quite better than they were, while Chelsea would still need to improve considerably to win the title. They were better than their lowly 10th place finish last term suggests. Of course, based on their underlying expected goal numbers, the Blues were the 4th most dominant team in the Premier League, although they dropped to 5th once penalties are excluded. The problem was that Chelsea struggled to take their chances. They scored 8 fewer goals than than they should have, given the number and quality of shots they took. Just 58 from an expected goal of 66.3, with only Crystal Palace, and that's the Eagles, and the All Goal, the Pack of Wolves. I'm talking about Wolverhampton Wanderers, worse finishers than them last season. Bizarrely, the majority of that XG, that expected goal under, performance in front of goal came in just 5 games in March and April under Liam Rosenio. Chelsea's results suddenly, nosedived after 29 games, despite taking 73 shots worth 5.5 XG. The side lost 5 successive league games, without scoring for the first time in 114 years. A run of defeats that saw Rosenio ousted as head coach of the side. The question is, did Chelsea become bad finishers? Was it simply a run of bad luck, or was it something else? Whatever the reason, the Blues are likely to suffer such a sudden slump again this season. So they go into the new campaign on the right foot, looking to up their ante and get a job done. Will they make it count? What's it like for the West Londoners talking about Chelsea? Have they got enough in the tank to deliver? Will they come good under new boss Xabi Alonso? Can Xabi Alonso repeat, a similar fate we saw back in 2016-2017? With the finish 10th the previous season, went on to win the Premier League title under a new manager. Similar situation between then and now. What's it like, really? Will they come pretty good? Will there be a force to reckon with? What's it like for the Blues? Will they challenge their rivals from the north? Pretty well going into the 2026-2027 campaign as regards the race for the title? Or will it just be one of those, bad seasons, or regular or vintage Chelsea season that's in recent times? I guess only time will tell, you guys. Anyways, you know, we just can't go any further. We just have to put the pin right here. And best believe, you are the real MVP. Been a great time with you. I can't even lie. All right. But then the season is upon us, and we're counting down and building, looking forward to what the campaign has got in store. All right. Anyways, lots to talk about, but you know, we'll wait for some other time. I remain Danny Mino, the voice you trust and that mayor you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker, that homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms on that's YouTube, Instagram, Threads, X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at CEMTV Plus, and that's at CEMTV Plus, as would always bring you up to speed with interesting stories making the rounds. For now, it's a wrap.